Self-deconstruction. What appears when I fade away? Is full self-deconstruction possible? If you've been following this series up to this point, a question probably comes to mind. Is it really possible to completely eliminate myself? Are there truly people whose ego has died? And perhaps, seeing your ego still surfacing, you might have wondered, am I not enlightened enough? You might have even questioned, have I truly failed? The ego will invariably resurface. Let me state up front, the ego never completely disappears. It's just that its voice no longer resonates as truth for you. The ego still makes its presence known. But now, you have the awareness that you don't have to cling to it. The limitations of being a human incarnation of God. We currently possess names, have bodies, engage in relationships with others, and exist within the framework of time and space. This world is a field for experiencing separation. That means we cannot live without at least a functional self-consciousness, my dear sir. A state of complete non-self might only be a theoretical concept. So, it's safe to say that there are almost no individuals who truly live in this world, with their ego having completely vanished. That might indeed be theoretically possible, but in practical terms, it's virtually impossible. Because in that state of complete non-self, any interaction or communication with the very structure of this world, sir, would simply be impossible. True freedom isn't disappearance, but non-identification. So what is enlightenment? Is it a state where the self completely disappears? No. What's truly important is no longer identifying with those sensations. If you once believed, this thought is who I am, this feeling defines me, now you can understand, oh, a thought is arising, let it pass, this emotion too will fade. You've gained the strength to remain in the observer's position. Your ego hasn't disappeared. However, now you have the freedom not to react to that sound. I too once aimed for a state where my individual self would completely vanish. But now I know what's truly essential. That was also another ego's ambition to eliminate the functional self-consciousness. So now, when the ego arises, I just send it away, thinking, oh, it's appeared again? The ego doesn't disappear, but a state of consciousness where you can be with that ego without being swayed by it. That, right there, is the true place of freedom that can be realized within this world. The illusion of mine, an ego structure of attachment and anxiety. The world becomes an object of possession the moment the sense of I emerges. This belongs to me, that is mine, this is what I have accomplished, and that is what I need to safeguard. And so, in order to prove our existence, we begin to put labels on things all over the world, claiming them as mine. Thus, the birth of possession. As soon as I emerges, the things surrounding I become necessary. My name, my appearance, my relationships, my bank account, my pain, my social media, my personality, my awakening. These things are not truly mine, rather, they are merely props that help sustain me. It's a structure where the more you amass, the more anxious you become. That's why we keep accumulating, collecting, and can't throw things away, even today. Even knowing we should discard them, we hoard, thinking they might be useful someday. Our rooms fill with supplements, leggings, exercise equipment, apps, delivery boxes, and notification windows. The very things we rely on for self-maintenance gradually turn into prisons, not homes. Shopping addiction, the investment craze, and even trash-filled homes all share the same root. The illusion of mine that says, I must hold on to survive. The more I accumulate, the less anxious I'll be. If I have a lot, I must be a full person. But isn't it strange? The more we accumulate, the more our possessions enslave, control, and heighten our anxiety. Because that's not true stability. It's a false sense of security constructed upon insecurity. The ego, separated by embodiment, feels small and unstable. It has no substance, can be easily replaced, the body can be damaged, it can't exist without proving existence, and its position can only be gauged through comparison. That's why the ego desires expansion strategy. It wants to get bigger and occupy more space. So then, in what manner does the ego expand? By having more things, it means, I'm also someone who possesses this. By occupying more space, it says, I'm a complete person. By getting more attention, it says I'm someone important to someone else. By securing more options, it tells itself I'm someone with choices. So, the ego employs a strategy of accumulating things that are not itself to broaden its own being. But the problem is, that's not genuine expansion at all. It's a masquerade of a diminished ego. True awareness doesn't demand expansion. This is because in a state of non-existence, it's perfectly fine to add nothing from the beginning. However, a diminished ego must continually expand just to maintain the feeling of being alive. A diminished ego acquires objects, occupies space, and accumulates numbers to fill its empty existence. That's the ego's inflation, not the expansion of true existence. This is the human relationship emotion-based self-expansion strategy. Our ego dictates, that person belongs to me, they must like me, they must reciprocate what I give, they must always agree with my views, they must remain by my side. On the surface, this appears as affection, solidarity, trust, or friendship. But unconsciously, it's the objectification of relationships. You are part of me. Through you, I prove I am a good person. Relationships are objectified, where your reaction equals my worth. Symptoms of treating relationships as possessions. If your friends do better than you, you feel anxious. Why? It feels like my person left me for somewhere higher. Overreacting to every word and reaction from the other person. Why? That reaction feels like a signal rejecting my existence. Constantly testing or getting exhausted to confirm affection. Why? Without the illusion of mine, I waver. Perhaps I didn't truly love you, but rather just wanted to sustain myself through you. Relationships aren't exchanges, but a sophisticated possession, easily used to redefine myself. My body is the ultimate isolation. I must care for my body, maintain my youth, my skin, my vitality, and my elasticity. The body is the front line that the ego can hold on to. Because even when there's nothing to prove, we want to believe we're a good person if our body is okay. So, even the act of taking care of your body becomes a war to quell existential anxiety.
There's nothing wrong with taking care of your body. However, if the motivation behind it is existential anxiety, then it's not self-care, but rather a battle we're fighting.
Just let go and wither away? What am I to do then? What should I grasp?
That very sound is the actual embodiment of the belief that, if it crumbles, I will vanish.
Living with awareness. And truly, we all do that. Hardly anyone is entirely free from the obsession with their body and the pursuit of eternal youth. However, that is perfectly fine. True freedom is living while still being aware of it. Practicing letting go, a life of awareness without stopping. It's not about neglecting, it's about loving without needing to prove it. On the contrary, the excessive obsession that one must abandon the body to achieve enlightenment is another form of ego. This much must be let go for it to be real. I'm still lacking because I haven't let go of this. This is spiritual perfectionism, a trap even the profound zero can fall for. If you cultivate yourself, not to prove your existence through proving existence, but with tender care that cherishes your being, it becomes suffering. But if you nourish it with love, it transforms into joy. An enlightened individual doesn't neglect their body, but doesn't seek to prove themselves through it. One who knows that existence doesn't crumble, even if the body isn't beautiful, they are truly close to freedom. This is my story. Narrative attachment, a prison. Why can't we ever let go of our own stories? I genuinely believe that if I could explain why I was this way, why I felt such pain, I would feel less lonely. I've always been ostracized. I've gone through a more rigorous spiritual growth process than others. My life has been tough. I've always been the subject of envy. And I've only ever dated losers. I truly believed that such an explanation could help others to understand and also convince myself. And so, I became the explained me, the justified me, the me that could be easily summarized. Narrative attachment. It refers to a state of being addicted to the narrative structure of oneself. I am that kind of person. I've lived this kind of life. I went through that and became this way. Behind all those words, this unconscious thought is hidden, so I can't help who I am now. So I don't need to change who I am, therefore, you should not bother me. It's like writing a self-introduction or a resume for an inner child who is screaming and in distress. What that child truly wants is liberation, not explanation. I was explaining that my reliance on that person for years was deep friendship. In reality, it was a need for validation and exploitation. The narrative of "I always sacrificed" was a blanket covering my responsibility avoidance. Why are we so easily hurt by a single word from others? Why does someone saying, "You're not that kind of person," provoke anger in me? It's because it's a statement that completely shatters my personal narrative. The deepest root of my self-concept is my story. It feels like I can only exist if I keep telling that story. But genuine freedom truly begins precisely where that story of yours comes to an end. Now I ask you, if your story were to completely disappear, then who would you be?